Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us for our very first KitchenCon. I'm Cy Robbins, Director of Business Development. I'm going to get us started today. So this event started as a way to spotlight the incredible ideas that are coming out of our team. These are things that don't always make it into a case study or a client deck, but nonetheless deserve to be shared. We have web chefs from across the company presenting lightning talks today. These are quick, sharp insights into the work that we do, the tools that we use, and the trends that we're watching. So if you're a digital leader, a developer, a strategist, a content creator, or you're just downright curious, you're going to walk away today with something valuable. We hope this inspires new ideas and opens the door for future conversations. Before we get started with the first talk, since this is a lightning talk format, we'll be taking questions live in the Q&A tab here in Zoom. Our team will answer as we move through the presentations, so please direct your questions and thoughts there, and we'll get to you as we can. Now let's get cooking. Up first with lightning talk number 1 is Jim. He's going to talk about the case for fewer buttons and cleaner CTAs on your website. Take it away, Jim.
Well, hi, everyone. My name is Jim Vomero, and I build websites for a living, and that usually means adding lots of fun features, personalization, analytics, component libraries, AI agents. That's been a favorite. But every time we add something new, I always have to ask, are we actually helping the user, or are we just making a bunch of noise? And when it comes to call to action buttons, I guarantee more does not always equal better. The websites I work mostly in is in higher education. And so I have a lot of examples here. And when you're on a typical university homepage, before you even scroll down, you probably see lots of buttons. Apply now, request info, visit campus, maybe a chat widget pops up, or several explore our program finders, schedule a tour, talk to an advisor, give. The list goes on and on and on. And you find yourself kind of stuck. You wanted to make a decision about your future. And here you are, like, trying to figure out what's the first step of the very first page I even came across. So it's that paradox of choice where our brains don't like having all of these options. And in fact, when faced with too many decisions, we might just pick none. This has been backed by research countless times. And in the web space, Nielsen Norman Group updated their banner blindness study in 2023. And they found that users were outright ignoring multi-button banners. And industry-wide, there has been research showing conversion rates improving from 40 to 200% by just taking those action banners and reducing them to a single task. How'd they get this way? Well, it wasn't by accident. Websites get cluttered by committees, by anxiety, by good intentions. And to prepare for today's talk, I benchmarked 180 plus R1 research universities, and I wanted to look at the number of call to action buttons, their placement, the redundancy and clarity. I don't have time for all of that. So instead, I'm just going to share some homepage screenshots to complement the session and talk about some high level things that we could, I guess, begin our conversation on decluttering your sites and, all the projects I get to work on. In no way am I implying that any of these sites are performing well or the ones to look at or that they're having problems. So just enjoy them as a little extra on the talk. So looking at the problems, let's name these problems as villains as they are. And the first one is the multi-headed committee hydra, where every department wants a button: admissions and advancement and IT, student life. And your homepage it's no longer built for users. It's built at a compromise where no one has the authority to say no, so decisions are made by consensus rather than audience goals. The next villain is our SEO wizard, where somebody read a blog post 15 years ago that said more links is more SEO. And on its surface, that myth can haunt us. Now we start to link everything: headlines, testimonials, every picture, every icon. And the problem is we're still measuring SEO. So we see some reports that say we're doing good, but we're not necessarily measuring clarity. And we keep optimizing for algorithms rather than people. Then there's the conversion monster. This is the one that's driven by fear. You see a CTA button that might be underperforming, so let's add another one for this other segment. And then maybe another just for testing. You get an analytics tool that says track this, a new CRM, we can add that. And soon your journey is just fractured into a dozen competing paths. They're all trying to capture every click, but that really isn't helping the end user make a decision. This leads to the legacy ghost. That's that button that was added to your site, let's say in 2012, and somehow survives every single site redesign. No one knows who actually built it. No one knows who owns it, but we're afraid to remove it because, maybe it's important. Without the right governance and a content lifecycle, these old CTAs just never go away and they just haunt our new designs. Finally, and this one I've been feeling a lot lately, is this sort of Frankenstein monster of a component library where every time we're asked to design a new piece, there needs to be a button and maybe a secondary button or a list of links. And I mean, everything: accordions, tabs, sliders, videos, everything needs multiple buttons. And what I'm realizing lately is we're doing a great job empowering editors to build stories faster, to get their message in a really interesting visual way. But we're not providing the guardrails to help them to decide which components are used best to tell that story. All right, we've met the villains. There were 5 of them. I have to have five solutions. So let's talk about how we can fight back. First, starting every page with a single primary goal and making that action dominant and pushing everything else down the page. At 4Kitchens, we might use a tool like Gather Content's page tables, and there's other ones that are frameworks for helping you prioritize the purpose of your page. And I have to call this university out in particular because it's super clear, even from the zoomed out view, exactly what their primary call to action is. I love that. Next, we want to reduce the number of variations in your design system. A strong system should resist bloat naturally. And for things like buttons, it means defining visual tiers. So your primary and your secondary, and maybe a couple of variations of text link that are used very intentionally. It also means picking the right vocabulary with a few consistent verbs. And I have an example of this from last week. I was on an education site that had a register button, a start button, and a join button all on the homepage. And they all did the exact same thing, competing for attention. So if you find that you're trying to push an action and it doesn't fit a visual tier or a vocabulary you set, you have to question if that button should exist. A third strategy is to measure quality instead of quantity. And this sounds easy, but it takes a whole new set of reporting and consideration because you're counting conversion and not clicks. The easiest thing to do is to try to remove a button and see if you're having better conversion rates on the other parts of your site. If this is not something familiar to you, or you don't have a good framework for it, Google's Heart framework has a good, powerful set of tools for, and also companion workshops for digging into this content. And it very much preaches the idea that if you cannot measure a button's value, it's probably not worth presenting to the user. Just as a random side note, going through all these higher ed sites, I've seen quite a few now, more than I would have expected, where the main call to action was to play a video. And that seems like something that is easy to measure clicks. I'm very curious how it measures conversion. The fourth strategy is about governance. And we talk about this a lot at conferences because it's a part of all our projects. Somebody needs the authority to manage these buttons and to maintain consistency for your brand. This is especially true for high valued landing pages. So adding some sort of even lightweight approval process for changing these pages or introducing some friction can prevent a lot of chaos later. Every website needs a button bouncer, and I will gladly take that title. And finally, you should design for the journey, not the moment. For mature websites, users aren't necessarily starting on the homepage. You might have some campaign pages or program pages or articles, and from there, a user needs to know what comes next. You want to guide them to the next logical step rather than showing them every possible path. Group your call to actions by intent, and that might start with explore programs and later journey into apply. I highly recommend customer journey mapping exercises. There's a bunch of them online to help you create these sort of coherent user flows as an alternative to overwhelming your visitors with parallel choices. Well, in closing, if everything's a call to action button, then nothing is. We've built some incredible tools here at 4Kitchens: applications, community programs, platforms, design systems, and they're all meant to make the website smarter and more capable. But none of that matters if a user doesn't know where to start. So decluttering is not about limiting possibilities. It's about creating clarity. And it's about guiding people towards an action where they can actually make a difference. It's removing distraction to make room for direction. So thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to hear more about the 180 plus websites I surveyed, which by the way averaged 116 clicks on each of their homepage, like links, and hundreds of different CTA label variations, please reach out. I love talking shop, I love nerding out, and would love to keep this conversation going.
Amazing. Thank you, Jim. Next up, we're going to have Fabi and Teresa talking about taking a strategic approach to website support. Take it away, you two.
All right, so we are very excited to talk about continuous care, which is 4Kitchen's website support program.
Hi everyone, my name is Fabi Fallas, and as a project manager, I balancing my time between budgets and also timelines for high impact projects, such as CC, documentation, and builds.
And I am Teresa Gutierrez Jacobs. I am also a project manager, and I am our continuous care program manager as well.
And also beside us, we have a full service team of technical strategies and leads, also front-end and back-end engineers, designers, and UX strategies. We also have a client partner who is focused on the larger relationship with the clients. So there is like a deep knowledge on our team that you can tap into at any time.
All right, so let's talk about what continuous care is. It is our website support service, but it's also so much more than that. We really consider continuous care as a model built to give you peace of mind. We all know that website redesigns can be very time consuming. They're expensive, they're overwhelming. But the truth is you don't have to start from scratch every few years. That's actually the beauty of continuous care. That's where we come in. So it really is about extending the life of your website. Instead of one big overhaul, you'll get these steady strategic improvements that keep your site aligned with your goals. And we also see this as, again, not just a service, it really is a partnership. So you're gaining a partner who is invested in your success along the way.
So to explain you how continuous care works, we are going to use the metaphor of climbing a mountain. So consider our team as your digital Sherpas mean to ensure your safety and success at every step of the journey. So when we say that continuous care is more just than just support, here is what we mean.
So we'll start at Basecamp. This is where we do regular CMS and plugin updates. These are the things that we know need to be done in order to build a strong foundation. So at this level, we also plan for major upgrades. Let's say that your website is on Drupal 10. We know end of life is coming up next year. We'll move that over to Drupal 11. And for these larger upgrades, we coordinate across our entire client portfolio, and then we share learnings with each other. So our clients actually reap the benefits of efficiency as we go. We also use internal tools to monitor your website's performance, and we set the infrastructure in place for automation. And that basically just makes some of those mundane tasks overall easier. And then these tools also, they build in the efficiency and the security that we need for future development. So going back to this, mountain climbing analogy, at this point, this is where we're checking our gear, we're looking at weather conditions. This level of security is basically what we need to have a safe and successful journey.
So now that the Basecamp is set, we are going to start the climb. So you have had the opportunity to see how your site is working in the real world. So now is your time to make smart changes to keeping the site stable. So some activities that we are going to do in this stage is like performance improvements to keep your site fast and responsive. Also, we tackle the design and functionality updates to improve your user and editor's experience. And we lean into tools like visual regression testing that is like a comparison of the before and after of the code changes. So we provide you and help you to make edits with confidence and reducing the risk before pushing them on live. Just like adjusting your path and lining your pack, these improvements make your journey easier.
All right, and then we find ourselves sitting around the halfway mark up the mountain. So we're setting up camp here. This is a chance for us to stop and start to reassess the path ahead. So here's where we evaluate how visitors are actually interacting with your website. So this could look like UX audits. Those help us understand the effectiveness of your website. We could consider altering the website workflow to align with how your organization works. Maybe there are some headaches or pain points or workarounds that your team has just gotten so used to doing. And there's just no need for that. We should fix it. So whatever it might be at this level, this is where we're prioritizing the most important issues. And enhancing the user experience, not just for your visitors and those interacting with the front end of your website, but also those on the back end, your admins, editors, contributors.
And now we are going to start to climb with purpose. We know the importance that your website supports your larger mission, so we will do a lot of things to support you on that stage. Let's just say that you need to present or tell your stories or your faculty achievements for the web visitors. So we are going to provide you a strategic guidance on how those stories can be told in your site, such as homepage, landing pages, news, or reports. We also are taking not just the copy, also in the media. Do you want to share like videos, image, or audios that are portrayed to highlight his stories in the best compelling way? On the flip side, also, the editors can log in the time and decide and see the backend just like a dashboard where they can see which content is having accessibility issues or the last time of the piece was up to date. This kind of feedback loop helps to keep your site inclusive, up to date, and aligned with your goals.
All right, at this point, we have reached the summit. Your website now functions as a high-performing asset. It's strategically aligned with your goals. All of this is a really big deal. At this level, maintenance becomes continuous improvement. So we're now in this rhythm of making smart updates. We're no longer guessing because we're actually using real data, analytics, and we have this feedback loop, right, from your editors and your website visitors to inform the decisions that we make. So it's no longer, it's not just, what we think our users might want. We actually know because they've told us what they need. So at this point, we are actively listening. We're baking purpose into the overall process. So the view is great, but let's be honest, even at the top, the journey isn't over. There's always something else to do, another peak to climb. So this is, again, where we come in as strategic partners to plan the next move.
So thank you so much for sticking with us and climbing the metaphorical mountain. We offer different continuous care programs and levels that you can find in our website. Also, what is important to note is that all the strategic guidance and support that we are going to give you is not matter in the level of the tier that you choose, whether it's like 20 hours or 50 hours per month. Continuous care is not just like your safety net, it's like a partnership. We are here to help you to grow and move forward no matter where the altitude. Also, we provide the expertise, the collaboration, the support that you need to confidently moving forward and knowing that you will have like a dedicated and a skilled team supporting you at every step. So let's discuss how we can partner with you to master the digital climb.
That was great. Next up, we've got Laura, and she's going to share some lessons from AI-driven Drupal development, particularly with automated testing.
My name is Laura. I'm a senior engineer at 4Kitchens. And today I'm going to share a little short story about automated testing and how AI has helped us balance faster delivery with safer, more reliable projects. This comes from a real Drupal integration project our team worked on. For those who are not familiar, automated tests are small programs that check that our code works as expected, reducing repetitive multiple QA and catching issues early. Some months ago, we built a complex module that connected to an external PDF generation service. And we faced a familiar dilemma. Do we slow down to write automated tests, or do we skip them to move faster? Like many teams, we often in the past have prioritized speed and have relied on manual testing. We have found that when projects get bigger, the trade-offs from not having automated testing can catch up with you. Manual QA cycles balloon, regression bugs creep back in, and upgrades, which should be routine, become more complicated and time-consuming. Until now, writing automated tests required a fair amount of knowledge and took a considerable amount of time to assess which types of tests should be run and how to do it. But we had been thinking that we might be able to use our AI-based code editors to streamline the process. And so I took some time to try writing automated tests with the help of AI. It was an interesting process. At first, I had mixed results. I used Cursor as my code editor, and I found that it was very good at certain aspects of writing the tests. It really helped to jumpstart the process. It's very good at suggesting which tests to write based on our code. It quickly generated scaffolding for unit, kernel, and functional tests. At first, it often got the details of the tests wrong, especially the Drupal-specific details. But with Cursor and with other AI-based code editors, there's a way to add rules that the AI will follow. And I was able to add Drupal-specific rules that the AI referenced. And I refined those rules as I went until I got consistent, usable results. And it works really well. We've since taken those same rules and transferred them onto different projects, and we can now get automated tests written and working for an external integration or any feature in a short period of time. I just wrote an article about this that we're sharing with the attendees here today, and it has details about the different types of tests and the rules that we add. So if you're interested in knowing more, you can take a look at that article or share it with your team. We see that the most impact with large projects or projects that have external integrations. When upgrading Drupal and contributed modules, it's very handy to be able to run the tests and know right away if anything needs attention. With automated tests in place, the regression costs go down, upgrades are safer and faster. QA teams can focus on new features, not just rerunning older checklists. So the big takeaway is that automated testing isn't just for teams with extra time and budget anymore. AI makes it easier to start, cheaper to maintain, and more valuable for both developers and stakeholders. Thank you. And again, if you're interested in getting more information about writing automated tests with AI, please check out my article. And if you have any questions, I'm available anytime.
Thanks, Laura. And like she said right there at the end, there's a blog up on our site now that goes into much more detail on this topic. Feel free to check that out. We'll link that out to you after the event. Now we're going to go to the front end of your websites with Andres and Mari. They're going to co-present some ways to elevate site experiences using vanilla JavaScript.
Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to talk about how a little bit of vanilla JavaScript can take our Drupal site from powerful to dynamic. So let's start it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andres Diaz. I'm a senior front-end engineer at 4Kitchens, and I've been doing Drupal frontend for about 15 years now. And I love to create performant and modern websites using web standards.
And I'm Mari Núñez. I'm also a front-end engineer at 4Kitchens. As someone that has a user experience background, I enjoy creating Drupal experiences that are seamless for all users.
Okay, let's start with a very simple question. Why are we talking about modern web experiences today? The reason is that the way that people has been using the web for the last decade has changed a lot. Users today experience the same kind, the same kind of smooth, engaging experience they get from mobile apps. And as developers and designers, our goal is to meet that expectation while still keeping our sites fast, accessible, and easy to manage. When we talk about a modern web experience, we're talking about interactivity that feels alive. That's where transitions and visual feedback come in. They make navigation feel continuous instead of abrupting. And the other key feature that we want to integrate in our experiences is storytelling, using motion, layout, and timing to guide attention and emotion. All of this together makes the web feel more human, more connected, and ultimately more engaging.
Another reason is that, well, as we know, that web today is not a web we knew 10 years ago. Technology has evolved, so browsers are now faster, smarter, and far more capable. So we also have an incredible diversity of devices that are accessing the same content in different ways. So this means we are no longer designing for a single screen, we are designing for a whole ecosystem. So modern web technologies give us the tools to create experiences that feel modern, fluid, and responsive.
So with all these new technologies and expectations, it's natural to ask, why do we want to stay in Drupal? And the answer for us is simple. Drupal gives us a solid foundation. It has a robust content management system and editorial tools that make it easy for non-technical teams to create, organize, and publish content. Drupal also has a large active community that's constantly improving the platform. That means long-term stability, security, and thousands of ready-to-use contributed modules. And most importantly, people are already using it. It's already part of our ecosystem. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel. Instead, we can modernize within Drupal, enhancing the front-end experience with modern web technologies while keeping all the power and structure that Drupal provides on the backend.
So whenever we talk about modern web experience, someone brings up the question about what about the decouple approach, and for a good reason. So what does it mean to decouple? A decouple setup means separating Drupal's backend from the front-end layer. So while decoupling Drupal sounds appealing, it comes with some real challenges that we need to take into account. First, there's added complexity. You are now managing multiple code base, which increases development time and the chance of bugs. Second, it requires more infrastructure, which can add costs and maintenance overheads. And finally, the editorial experience can suffer. In a decoupled setup, the final page lives in another page, which can be confusing for content creators. So yeah, decoupling has its benefits. We are not saying that it doesn't, but these challenges that I mentioned are things to consider before taking that route. So instead of going fully headless, we can take a progressive approach by only using vanilla JavaScript.
Using a third-party library is a common approach in the JavaScript world. There are thousands of libraries to help developers provide interactivity and enhance the user experience. However, while libraries are a valid and useful options, they are not the solution for all cases. The first thing is that most libraries are generic solutions and won't be tailored to our specific needs. That can lead to compromises in design or performance that can affect our sites. Second, introducing external libraries can bring potential security concerns. There have been multiple cases in the past where thousands of sites are affected when a single library is compromised. And finally, there are extra dependencies to maintain. Every library we add becomes something we have to track, update, and test over time, which increases long-term maintenance overhead. This doesn't mean that we're against using libraries. However, while they can be helpful, sometimes they are not the best fit for our needs. So it's important to choose carefully and use them strategically.
So why choose vanilla JavaScript for enhancing our Drupal sites? So first, it is built on standardized APIs that are widely supported across all modern browsers. So this means we can rely on consistent behavior without worrying about heavy frameworks or external libraries. It allows us to create lightweight and tailored solutions. We only write the code we actually need instead of bringing in unnecessary third-party libraries that do far more than we will ever use. And finally, it is easier to maintain. So fewer dependencies mean fewer updates. Here's a video with an example of what we can do with a standard JavaScript. Notice how the image and the animations only trigger as we scroll. There are no glitches, no heavy initial load, and the page feels smooth and app-like. That's the magic of Intersection Observer working behind the scenes. That's something that JavaScript offers us, so let's see how it works. So basically, Intersection Observer is essentially a sensor on each slide. It detects when a slide enters or leaves the viewport. We don't have to continually check positions while scrolling it down. So think of it like motion sensors in a museum exhibit. Lights or animations only turn on when someone walks into the room. This allows us to trigger images and animations only when needed, keeping the page lightweight, and create a smooth parallax fading and scroll-based effects. By only loading what the user sees, we reduce unnecessary work, keep the page fast, and deliver the fluid app-like experience we have been talking about.
In this example that Mari just shared, we can see how a standard JavaScript supported by all modern browsers can be used to provide immersive storytelling in our sites. But the web platform keeps evolving, giving us even more possibilities. For example, there are modern APIs like the Transition API and the Web Animations API that let us orchestrate page transitions and precise animations. That mean we can add app-like polish to a traditional web page directly using vanilla JavaScript. No white screens between pages, just fluid motion. And these are just examples of what can be done. New features are constantly being added to browsers, providing a lot of options to developers and designers to bring more functionality to sites. When we combine these APIs with Drupal robust content system, we can create an interactive, highly polished experience while keeping everything lightweight, maintainable, and integrated.
And that wraps our presentation. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thanks, Mari and Andres. That was awesome. Next up is Callan. He's going to be talking about how site audits can surface recommendations for improving your CMS.
Yeah, hello everyone. Great sites aren't accidents. They're the result of deliberate, repeatable audits that turn guesswork into a prioritized roadmap. In the next 10 minutes or so, I'll show how performance and accessibility audits across Drupal and WordPress deliver faster loads, steadier interfaces, and inclusive experiences that measurably impact conversions and risk. We'll move from simple workflow to high-impact fixes you can ship next week. My name's Cal Mullaney. I'm a senior engineer at 4Kitchens, as well as the Emulsify product lead, which is an open source project funded by 4Kitchens for building design systems. I've performed hundreds of site audits over the years, and as an engineer, I think it should be an integral part to your site's life. So why don't we perform site audits? You just built a brand new website, or your site is 5 years old and seems to be running fine for you. So audits can have direct business impact. When the homepage and key templates load quickly and feel responsive, bounce rates drop and conversions rise. Smaller assets and better caching also reduce hosting and CDN costs. Audits reduce risk of litigation and increase reach. Auditing for accessibility isn't just about compliance, it's about usability. Clear structure, proper labels, and real buttons help everyone, including keyboard and screen reader users. And it's a continuous loop. We baseline today, ship targeted fixes, and retest the same pages next month. Site audits are a tool to sharpen your process and build good habits instead of relying on a large projects to fix all the things. There are two main focuses of measurement for basic site audit, performance and accessibility. When it comes to performance, there are three main areas: largest contentful paint, how quickly the main content becomes visible; cumulative layout shift, how much the page jumps around while it's loading; and interaction to next paint. For your page has now loaded, and we want to measure how quickly an element reacts after a user has action on it. So toggling a menu or clicking next slide on a slideshow. We also have three areas of focus for accessibility. Perceivability. Content has text alternatives, captions, sufficient color contrast. Is an element operable? Everything works with a keyboard. Focus order is logical. There are skip links, and there's no unexpected traps when navigating. And is it understandable? Navigation, labels, error messages are clear and predictable, and forms provide useful guidance. We use the industry standard tools for auditing. These tools may overlap in some areas, but this can help provide better perspective for determining opportunities for improvement. Google Lighthouse is one that you're probably all familiar with. This helps provide lab snapshots for performance, accessibility, and best practices. Web page test, which is more of a deep dive into a waterfall or film strip view of how a page loads in. Axe Dev Tools for browser is a browser extension for automated accessibility rules to catch common issues. And screen readers and keyboard testing. These are non-visual tools that are generally provided by the operating system your computer uses. Now that we know why and what we want to measure, let's take a look at the audit workflow. Keep in mind, this workflow is meant to loop back on itself. So first we crawl and we inventory, review any analytics data, note any highly trafficked pages or pages that contain a lot of assets. automated checks, we use the tools I mentioned to run the checks and capture those opportunities for improvement. Then we run our manual checks, run through those pages, those same pages using just your keyboard and screen reader tool, noting places you get stuck and why you got stuck. And then finally, we want to prioritize the backlog. Let's create tickets. Let's prioritize those tasks by ease of implementation and highest impact. So we have our baseline measurements and we've prioritized action items. I'm going to walk through some common high impact opportunities. Keep in mind, these are technical remedies. Site navigation is the most important element on your site. This is how users get around. Use native HTML landmarks and lists so screen readers and keyboards get structure for free. Avoid overusing role attributes to redefine non-semantic markup. Native markup, it always beats custom overrides. So in this instance here, we want to wrap the main menu in a nav element with an ARIA label. Add a visible skip to main content towards the top of the page so users can skip over the navigation or header element to go right to the content. Make sure the tab order follows the visual order and focuses styles. And focus styles and areas are distinct from hover states. And then we want to add ARIA current page to the active page so assistive technology announces where the user is in the site. For submenus, we want to use buttons, not links, to open these submenus. Manage these with ARIA expanded to indicate the state of the button or the submenu, and ARIA controls to tell what the button actually toggles. And then finally, using that hidden attribute so the submenu can be hidden from screen readers when it's not needed. Forms are another interactive element your site may have. If a user needs to interact with an element or feature, then extra care should be given. Every input needs a programmatic label with a for attribute, so screen readers can properly announce it, and clicking the label itself focuses the user to that related input. If there are related options like radio or check buttons, make sure that you use field sets with legends for proper grouping and narration. Similar to navigation, your site should prefer semantic inputs. Use the type attribute, so type email, type tell, type date. There's a host of those to get native validation, mobile keyboards, and consistent accessibility without extra scripts being involved. These also provide operating system specific widgets like date pickers or numeric keyboards. When it comes to the elements on your page, the touch targets, make sure they're at least 44 pixels by 44 pixels. This also includes padding with those. That just helps ensure things like focus styles are clear and persistent. Users must see where they are or where they're tabbing as they're going through their site, going through your site. And then helpful errors, place error text next to the field and reference it with ARIA described by, so it's announced. Toggle ARIA invalid true when the field fails validation to convey state and assistive tech. Next, we want to optimize our styles in JavaScript, and it can have a dramatic impact on the largest contentful paint and cumulative shift vitals that I mentioned earlier. The goal is to remove unused CSS and idle JavaScript, verify external scripts return on investment. This may require an evaluation of your site's Google Tag Manager. We want to remove or sandbox any third-party widgets. Example, a YouTube player should only load once a user clicks on it. And finally, similar to third-party widgets, replace heavy iframes with placeholders that lazy load when they're needed. Next, we want to split and defer our styles and JavaScript. So we generate per template CSS, print it inline on the page, and make all non-essential JavaScript deferred or lazy initialized. And then lastly, fonts. Fonts are a big one. So for your fonts, you should always use font display swap when loading non-system defaults. This helps prevent invisible text while loading a page and ship waits only when they're actually used. There's some platform specific tools you can use. For Drupal, use single directory components with lean libraries. In the example on the right, you can see I'm creating a library specifically for an accordion component that loads the CSS and JavaScript within that accordion template. So this isn't loading on pages that don't have this component. And then for WordPress, just being smart about how you enqueue scripts. We want to register all our scripts and styles early on in the functions.php, and then we load those as they become necessary. So I only want to load my article styles when I'm actually viewing an article. Optimizing images and media will have the largest impact on page performance. Only serve images that match the size of the specific space they render. Serve images in modern formats like AVIF and WebP for smaller sizes without sacrificing quality. SVGs for vector images like logos and icons, and use responsive images. So the size of your image matches the size of the device you're trying to serve it on. CSS helpers. We want to utilize the aspect ratio style. This helps prevent violations with that cumulative layout shift metrics by pre-establishing what the space of the image will fill. Consider how media is loaded on the page. So we want to lazy load images using the lazy load or the loading attribute. We want to load images above the fold eagerly so they pop in right away. And then for CSS backgrounds, I recommend using JavaScript to kind of load those in as they come into view. And then to wrap up, I'd like to briefly just cover some platform-specific tools we use. For Drupal site audit, this generates a report for scores related to caching settings, database status health, site logs, and general best practices within a Drupal code base. Web Profiler for performance evaluation tool to help determine how heavy a page is from a perspective of a database queries, amount of functions that are fired on a page, and just services that are loaded. And then editorially for content editor tool to help verify semantic markup, use HTML, proper HTML structure, and media like images have labels associated with them. And then for WordPress, query monitors, similar to Drupal's Web Profiler, this gives a plugin, evaluates page performance from a backend perspective. Performance Lab is a two-in-one plugin that provides miscellaneous tools that directly affect your site performance, but also generate reports related to like caching settings, your database, and status and its health and site logs. And then finally, the debug bar provides a widget for quick metrics on page queries. And remember that continuous improvement breathes new life into your site. So performance helps drive revenue and traffic. Accessibility expands user reach, and audits connect both to outcomes. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Callan. That was awesome. Roberto is going to be talking about implementing single directory components in an existing Drupal theme.
Hi, everyone. Today, I'm going to talk with you about single directory component in an existing Drupal theme. My name is Roberto Hernandez, and I have been working as a front-end engineer for more than 8 years. Here's a quick overview of today. First, I'm going to start talking about what is single directory component and also a couple of things that you need to keep in mind before starting to work. Then we will see how to build new components and move old ones to this new structure. Finally, I will share with you some tips and lessons learned that makes this process easier. Okay, what is single directory component? Single directory component, or SDC, makes keeping all the files related to one component, like the tweak, the template of the component, the styles, the JavaScript, together in one folder. That makes the code easier to find, understand, and maintain. Before starting with SDC, a few things helps a lot. First, look at your theme and see how the templates and styles are organized. Make sure your current Drupal version supports SDC. Ideally, the 10.1 or newer. Decide where your components will live and agree with your team on names, folders, and file structure. Start small. Try with 1 or 2 components first, so you can test the workflow safely. When creating new components with SDC, the idea is very simple. 1 folder, 1 component. Everything for that component stays together. As I mentioned, the tweaks, the styles, JavaScript, etc. Drupal reads the YAML files to know what belongs to the component. sorry, to these components. So you can include it anywhere just using the tweak path. In the first screenshot, we have an example of the component structure for our card component. So we have 4 files. The first 2 files are required. The first one is the structure. The second one is the YAML file that this contains all the component definition. And the last ones are optionals. If your component needs some logic or some styles, you can add it. And then in the second screenshot, you can see how to include on components in your Drupal templates. In this case, we're including heading component. You just need to add the path for this component and send all the variables for this one. The goal is to make each component self-contained and easy to reuse. No more jumping between folders and looking for CSS. And the idea is everything it's in one place. You know, with this technology, with this tool, you don't need to create Drupal libraries for each component in your team. This tool will load automatically when you include it into your template. Migrating existing components in SDC. To move existing components, first find the components that you want to move. Then create a folder for each one in your components path. And then remember that the YAML file, it's very important because this file includes the name, the properties, the slots, sorry. Basically everything required to define your component. Update your tweak includes to the new path. You can use a namespace if your project needs them. And as an optional point, you can use Servbook to preview the components and document them. This keeps the components organized, self-contained, and easy to use and maintain. Some tips and best practices. When starting with SDC, begin small. Use reusable components like buttons or cards. Remember, one component, one purpose. Each component should do one thing and stay independent. Preview and test early. With Servbook, Servbook help us to see and check the components before using them. It's better to use slots instance blocks, since blocks let us build more flexible and dynamic structures, making our components easier to work with. And finally, keep configuration simple. With tools like a multi-core, you don't need to complicate it. You don't need complicated setup. The goal is to make your workflow easier. That habits make your Drupal team easier to maintain and scale. And that's all for today. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thanks, Roberto. And that wraps up our agenda today. We finished a couple minutes early. If there are any questions in the chat, or feel free to drop questions in the chat. Otherwise, you can always drop us a line on our website. And as I mentioned in the chat earlier, we'll be posting the recording of this whole session on YouTube later this week. So if you want to share it with your colleagues or your friends, or just check it out after the fact, please head over there. See lots of clapping and satisfied attendees. So if there are no questions, we'll end it for now. Thanks so much for joining us for our first KitchenCon. We'll see you soon.